Hi, Erica. So, looking at your code, the first thing um, that I notice is that you changed an instance variable in here. And the shell code, it says you cannot create additional instance variables or methods beyond those shown. So this GCF integer, we're going to go ahead and remove that. And we'll keep a lookout for that as we scan down through the rest. So the set max method, you're reading in your integer, and then your two catches if it's negative or less than 5. Looks fine. Then you call the set all triples and total method. Get max method looks okay. Find GCF. So, okay, so I think this is where your problem is gonna come into play. So what you have set up here is a loop that starts at 1 and is incrementing by 1 up until you reach the first value passed in by parameter in the potential Pythagorean triple. But because 1 excuse me, is always a factor, it's gonna always meet this condition, this if condition, and return that GCF as 1, even if there is another factor that's greater that's in common. So we're going to need, instead of starting at 1 and incrementing, we're going to need to start at the maximum of A, B, and C and decrement, or actually half the maximum. So first thing we should do is get rid of this GCF here, because that was the instance variable removed. So if we don't catch any greater common factors, we're going to return a 1. That would mean that 1 was the GCF. And in your condition, instead of assigning factor to GCF, if there is one that's greater than 1, we're going to just go ahead and return that factor. Okay, then this check is fine. That's what we want. And then in your loop, we don't want to start at 1. Instead, we want to start at the maximum. So we're going to do int factor equals math.max, and we'll compare A with the math.max of B and C. So that would start at the largest value, and then we could decrement. So we'll make this plus plus into a minus minus. And we're going to keep going until factor is, or while factor is greater than 1. So that it keeps checking until we get to 2, and then if it doesn't find a common factor, it'll return 1 down here at the bottom. Okay, so this would loop through all the possibilities. If we wanted to save time, we could have it start, instead of at the actual max, we could divide by 2, have it start at the max divided by 2, because the math commutative property for multiplication, 2 times 3 equals 3 times 2, so we really only have to check half of the options. And now I think your GCF method will work. Okay, then we'll go down to set all triples. So let's see here, we're starting at 1, and starting at A, starting at C, checking the Pythagorean theorem. If A is odd and B is even, or A is even, B is odd. If C is odd, find the GCF. Okay, so here's another glitch you've got to fix. So your find GCF, this is your method call, but right now it's not assigned to anything. So it's, the method's being called, but it's going to return a number, either the greatest common factor or 1. And that's what we want to compare in this conditional statement. So this GCF we're going to replace with the method call. So let's remove that method call in line 71, and then we're going to replace this GCF with that method call. So the method call returns the GCF, and we compare that to 1. But I can't think of an occasion that it would ever be less than 1. So I think we're going to make this an equals equals 1 because the user has to input a positive integer. So find GCF equals 1, and then we would increment that inner loop, increment, yep, the outer loops both get incremented by 1. Okay, all triples gets concatenated, and that's a string with A, B, C spaces between and a new line, and you increment your count. Let's make sure you instantiated your count at 0, which you did. All triples starts as an empty string. That looks good. Then here, the toString, I don't think we don't need to call that, because in the runner, we tell it to print the object. So out.print test here in the runner, and that's going to call the toString method. So if we go back here to your toString, return all triples. So I don't think we should need this line. Let's fix your spacing. There we go. Okay, so let's go ahead and try this. We'll try compile first, see if we have any syntax errors that we need to take care of. And that looks okay. And then we'll go to the runner and give it a try. So if we enter 47, we get, where's my slider? There we go. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 triples, and their values are between 1 and 47. Yeah, so I think that takes care of it. I think that makes it work. So if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to help.